Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Engagement Designer demo series. In the last episode, we talked about the three buttons in the upper right, and then we talked about how we're going to go through individually each one of these tabs within the administration console. The first tab here we have is called Workflows, and in this tab you can administer all of the deployed workflows on this Avaya Breeze cluster. A deployed workflow is a workflow that can be executed based on an event defined in the event catalog. So in the Workflows tab here, there are a couple of things I'd like to point out. Off to the right, we have our search feature and the ability to sort the workflows that we've searched on. Currently, I'm searching just on my name, so as to hide all the other names of other currently deployed workflows by other users within this cluster. And I can actually sort my workflows here based on any one of the columns within this tab. Sorting is done through either the multiple sort or just by clicking on the individual column itself. So I'm sorting right now based on the deployed date, and the most recently deployed workflow I have is the simple workflow, which I'll be showing you today. I can also click on multiple sort, which opens a new window within the administration console, and this allows me to add sorting abilities based on each individual column. But right now I'm just going to sort by workflow name. How about workflow name descending? And it actually put my simple workflow at the top because all my other workflows start with the letter C, and that starts with S. Also here, you can even hide and show columns based on these check marks here. So if you only want to show description, version, and deployed on, you can hide those. I can even hide the actions if I want. Show actions. And lastly, off to the right here, I can even refresh this tab by clicking the refresh button. This refresh button is important when you deploy a new workflow and it doesn't show up immediately within the Workflows tab. You can simply press refresh and that deployment of the new workflow should appear. Off to the left here we have these three buttons: Create Instance, Undeploy Workflow, and Attributes. Attributes is used to define properties that you will list within the workflow, and we'll go over those within the Engagement Designer tool later. But for now, I'll click on Attributes with the check mark marked next to my simple workflow. It's going to open a new window within the administration console, and I can see I have two attributes or properties defined within this workflow. I have my current lab's SMS number that is going to be used to actually send the SMS message to my cell number. I can click on any of these values right here and actually change the value without having to undeploy and redeploy a workflow. So here I'll change it to my actual cell number and then click the check mark to apply. This functionality is important for something that may apply along the lines of maybe a static IP address, maybe a password for a static database, something that you will want to change later down the road without having to undeploy and redeploy a workflow. Here I'm just defining my cell number, but this is very important, like I said, for redefining passwords maybe, or something that you just don't want to have to reapply every time you have to make a change. So this allows you to make those changes without having to undeploy and redeploy this workflow. I can click close. And now that property has been changed within my simple workflow. If I open attributes again, I'll see that it stayed the same as my cell phone number. The next button is Undeploy Workflow. This actually will then undeploy the workflow from this cluster and make it no longer executable. I can also undeploy a workflow by clicking at the button off to the right here that shows the similar icon as Undeploy Workflow. The last button is the Create Instance button. This will actually create a running instance of the workflow that you have the check mark next to. So if I click Running Instance, it's going to open a new window, just like the Attributes button did, and it's going to give you a list of options that the event body of this workflow requires. This event body is defined within the event catalog and gives you a list of required inputs that this workflow will then have through the start schema. The start schema is defined within the Engagement Designer that we will go over later. In this example, the simple workflow is only asking for one input item, and that item is called text. So this is actually a simple workflow of it's going to receive this text and send it off to my cell phone number. So if I type in hello world and then click OK, that is going to run a created instance of this workflow that is going to send a text message to my mobile number, and it's going to say hello world. This running instance can be found within the Instances tab that we'll go over later. The last button is going through the engagement designer itself. You can actually open a new copy of a deployed workflow. So if I click on the open new copy, it's going to open a new browser tab that is going to open the engagement designer tool and an exact copy of the workflow I just ran. Give it a second to load here. And we can see the engagement designer tool open an exact copy of the workflow that I created called Simple Workflow. This is the engagement designer tool that we're going to go over later. Back on the administration console page, we can see in this tab this is meant for handling all of the deployed workflows currently on this Avaya Breeze cluster. In the next episode, we're going to go over the workflow drafts tab. And in that episode, we'll show how you can handle the deployment and activation of all of the workflows within workflow drafts.